What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Colin Thompson Show. Really excited about our guest today, Panthers wideout, CFL legend, small school college football legend, Brandon Zylstra, joining us live. Jack in the back, Justin Ayers, we're down in training camp, and we got to interview Brandon for a full hour in person, talking about his journey from making a commitment, driving across the country throughout the whole day, throughout the night, 24 hours to say, you know what? I'm from a small school, Division II, Division III. I'm just going to commit to this with my quarterback, and I'm going to find a way to make it to go professional, from a CFL tryout to committing to a CFL contract to then all of a sudden getting an invite from the Vikings, and then the CFL team wouldn't let him do it because he was under contract, to a great CFL career, to the Minnesota Vikings again. And this is a great story. And he's been in Carolina for years. This is the guy who's kicked off in a football game when the kicker got hurt and then ran down and made a tackle. This is a guy who's had huge plays in the NFL, touchdowns on special teams, on offense. He's a do-it-all type of guy. And he's a great guy, a great friend, a great person. And we're really excited to have Brandon Zylstra on. I am jacked to have Brad, Justin Bradley, in the house today. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Can't wait to keep talking.
Okay, good. That's a good intro. We have out of them, and can't wait to keep talking. So you'll get ripped for that, just like everything Jack's getting ripped for. You making fun of women's lacrosse, not making fun of, but saying that men's lacrosse is better.
Unreal.
And then all your takes about putting mild and hot wings on the same thing. And then last week we did Gatorade colors, and you put anything in a certain bottle tastes good. So Jack in the back, we have a rating system again today. We're going to be rating public transportation. I think we may be the first people to do public transportation. It kind of hit me like a ton of bricks today. Jack, have you ever seen anybody rate public trans?
I have not. I mean, every time I hear about public transportation, it's always pretty negative. So, I mean, ranking the best forms of public transportation is definitely a unique one. It's got to be a new one.
I am jacked about it. No pun intended. Because, hey, you know, like I said, I fought tooth and nail on this ranking thing. Jack and our awesome team here, and Justin has been a part of, you know, the videos that everybody watches and support of and cuts up. We have a team behind that. Justin, Jack are a huge part of that, as well as a host of other people. And everyone's like, we should do ratings. You know, everyone gets good, gets good buzz off doing ratings and good conversation. And I'm like, all right, fine, we're going to do it. So good call on you guys. We've got some good buzz. We've got some good conversation out of it. We're getting all of our other podcasts involved in it. And we'll see more out of everybody when everyone's kind of up and going here, close to September, August 21st. You look down at that. It's pretty crazy. Football season's here. We're entering the week of the third preseason game. So exciting stuff there. Guys, this podcast is not possible without our sponsors, but really they're friends of the pod and, their family. And we're just very fortunate to work with such great people over at the Fudge Kitchen, the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. Check out our social media. Our boy Brad and Rossi were out front asking the tough questions. Not really, but tough questions to people outside the original Fudge Kitchen. Brad. Okay, so what was the toughest question you asked that someone got right, you think?
Well, we had some kids, typical high school boys thinking they're all cool. We tossed them the Colin Thompson question, and first they were all like, "Oh, I don't know," and then they tried to sneak it on us. And when we caught them, they tried. Yeah, it was a big group. They tried to distract us. It's all on video. We could expose them if we wanted to, but it's in the past. But the toughest one, I think someone got the new stadium name of Heinz Field, if I believe, because it's Arkeesier. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like something like that. So I think someone got that. That was probably the toughest one, in my opinion. I mean, we just posted one where a guy didn't know what team Patrick Mahomes played for, and he thought that was a hard question. So it all depends on the person we interviewed, I guess.
Well, it's a great job out of you and Rossi and our team putting all that stuff together because it was really cool content right in front of the original Fudge Kitchen. You guys were at Ocean City. Which one were you guys at,
New Jersey. So it was the one right in front of the Music Pier. I forget what street that is, because the other one's like a store, like a gift store. And that's like the actual like Fudge shop.
Yeah. Yep. 12th Street. Yep. They just added a new one there, that kind of gift shop. You can buy fudge in there and stuff like that too. But Yeah, it was really good. Just good stuff. If you haven't seen it, check out the trivia in front of the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. Thank you to those guys at Fudge Kitchen all over the Jersey Shore, all the way from Ocean City, 2 locations, down through the Jersey Shore points, and then again 2 in Cape May at the end of the road there. So ship it to somebody. This, fall season is on approaching. Once that clock strikes September, it's fall. It's football time, and there's no better way to celebrate it than some awesome fudge. Shout out to our friends over at Wealth Advisory Services, wealthadvisoryservices.com. Paul Crew and his team of Dave. They have, his team, including Dave Jenkins. They have over 100 years of experience there, located in Doylestown, Bucks County, and in Cape May, New Jersey. So they have you covered down there. It's convenient. It's easy to get to, and they are great guys that I'm very fortunate to work with the busy schedule of NFL and podcasting and travel and all the things I get to, very blessed I get to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. It's really nice to have someone to rely on like those folks over at Wealth Advisory Services. Again, 100 years of experience in their building alone, and they're local. They're people from Bucks County. They're people from Jersey, and they work with clients across the country. So if you need guidance on your, approach to how to manage your wealth, whether it's a small amount or a massive amount, buying a house, 401k, retirement, Paul, Dave, and their team over there in Doylestown and Cape May, New Jersey have you guys covered. wealthadvisoryservices.com. If you don't know them, you should. All right, boys. So lots to discuss. I first want to start with this. So there's a lot to tackle here with what's going on in college football, right? So there's the NIL stuff, which everyone's freaking out about it. And it's all, it's blown up and guys are getting overpaid and whatever it may be. We had a player walk away this week that made all that NIL money, and he's getting paid for stuff that he'd be doing this year, and he could walk away with it and kind of leave the game down at LSU. But the big news, the big news is the Big Ten announces a TV rights deal totaling over $8 billion with Fox, CBS, and NBC. CBS and NBC are each paying around $350 million per year for their Big Ten packages, and the Big Ten new rights agreement are worth $8 billion over a 7-year term. So there's lots to unpack here, right? There's the expansion of the Big Ten first, adding USC and UCLA, and more to come, right? They're saying they're going to add 20 teams total to the Big Ten, or they're going to have 20 teams total to the Big Ten, not add. So, where any good thought is done, I'm in the sauna today, and I'm sitting there, and people are around me talking about football and all these different things, and I'm just trying to be a fly on the wall and be quiet, Colin, don't interject, because you get to really hear what people think. You get to hear an older gentleman give his thought, and then someone who's younger than me give their thought, and then someone who's 40-year-old and have their 2 kids out there swimming in the pool. You get to hear their thought, right? All these different, kind of melting pot of folks in there, for lack of a better term, of ages and ethnicities and whatever it may be. You get to hear some good content. So I try to mute my AirPods and listen. They're talking about the Big Ten and these TV deals and expansion, and Notre Dame came up, and Notre Dame always comes up because where do they stand? And I have conversations with friends all the time. Notre Dame's destined to join. Notre Dame's destined. They need to join the Big Ten, and I always say they don't need to do anything. They already have a multi-year deal. Let me see. Notre Dame currently has a $26 million a year deal in combination with NBC and its partnerships with the ACC. $26 million a year is really good money, but it's not $8 billion, over 7 years. And they're splitting that between all the Big Ten schools. So you guys can do the math on that. It's a lot more than that. Notre Dame would probably enter, and they probably have to make them renegotiate because what Notre Dame can bring in. So it just made me think, like, is this a move by the Big Ten? And I'm going to open the floor up to you guys here for your thoughts in a second. Is this a move, by the Big Ten to allure Notre Dame some more? Because they're saying, hey, listen, this is crazy. So the Big Ten will be on Fox to start today. We'll be on CBS 3:30 game, and we'll be on night for the NBC game. So they're going to be across 3 platforms, really 4, because every highlight's going to be showed on ESPN. You're going to watch it all the next day on your ESPN apps. Like, the amount of content going to be generated through the Big Ten is crazy. So I think this is all a move to bring Notre Dame in. Before I said, oh, Notre Dame, they're not going to come in, but why wouldn't you come in now? Because now the money is just absolutely ridiculous for you not to join. And there's other impacts on it, right? Like I'm thinking, well, how does it affect other sports? Like, it doesn't really matter about other sports. Do they matter? Absolutely to me. But I'm talking now to like someone who's writing a check from Fox or CBS. They're not thinking about, we've talked about women's lacrosse on here. They don't consider women's lacrosse a money generating sport, right? Like there's only really one. It's football and then like 10 basketball teams in college basketball really generate money, like a lot of it. And the rest of them either break even or a donor makes them break even or whatever it may be. So, okay, Notre Dame joins the Big Ten. What are the perks of that? For them, a lot more money. Also, even more money because they're going to renegotiate and probably get a bigger piece of the pie than other teams because they're bringing in something that's such a massive, massive, massive brand. And it had to be such an enticing package for them that they'd have to come out of nowhere with this huge deal to Big Ten and say, here you go, Notre Dame. If you join, you get X. So there's that. Even more national recruiting platform for them because they're going to now play UC. They're going to continue to play USC and UCLA and probably play the Rose Bowl is going to be where the big championship game is. So Big Ten championship game is. So I think there's a lure there. For their smaller programs, they can put teams on a bus and not spend the money for jet fuel, and they could take them to all the Big Ten schools pretty much in their area, all in the Midwest there on a bus. That was kind of a fun thought I thought about. Again, not a deal breaker, but a part of the conversation for me at least. Then I started thinking, well, who else could join the Big Ten if Notre Dame comes in? Well, they play BC every year. Why wouldn't BC join? Geographically, makes sense. Close off the Northeast. They're the really only school in the Northeast other than Rutgers and Penn State, right, that have had success in football. So to me, really, there's no like aha moment here other than the fact that before I was saying there's no way Notre Dame would join the Big Ten. And I talked about it on here before. Why would they? They're their own entity. They make a ton of money. All their other sports play in the ACC. That's fine. Well, the ACC, someone's going to get plucked out of there, you would assume, maybe two, either by the SEC or the Big Ten, because the SEC is becoming their own NFL. And then as I knock my mic over here using my hands, I'm talking more and I'm becoming more Italian. And I am half Italian. Shout out to my mom. Shout out to the doubters out there. So Notre Dame's, SEC's becoming their own kind of NFL entity. Big Ten's kind of becoming their own NFL entity. And it's like, well, who's left in the middle? Do we get disbanded or do we add more? And I could see the ACC being a candidate either to add or disband, right? They're right in the middle. What are they going to do? So I'm continuing to ramble here, but there's just so much to unpack about this. And I just think that, I just think it's a no-brainer now for them to join the Big Ten because of the money, not because it makes sense geographically and because we want to see Notre Dame play Penn State. No, it's because of the cash. And that's the only way it would make sense for Notre Dame to go over to the Big Ten. And now these games for them are going to bring in even more money. Notre Dame at Ohio State at home, Notre Dame, Penn State at home. Again, I'm talking Notre Dame at home here, like bringing money to South Bend, bringing money here. Like it's going to be a lot bigger than playing Temple, right? All right, my alma mater, I love, right? Like that's going to be who they're going to be playing every week. USC, UCLA, like huge brands. So I think it's opportunity for them to make a ton of money from TV rights, other things, all the things that come with it. So I'll send it over to Jack for your initial thoughts, Jack, from all the money being spent. But to me here, I just think, again, went from someone who was no way they're going to the Big Ten to, yep, I think it's only a matter of time till Notre Dame goes over to the Big Ten just because of the money being passed around.
Yeah, I mean, financially, you kind of said it perfectly. They're making $25 million off that ACC contract, and basically the numbers would probably quintuple that if they were to join the Big Ten. It's just, so financially it makes perfect sense. But I mean, I could also see from a football wise, I think they could leverage their contract at the ACC and also be like, listen, we're independent. We can bring in more money if we adjust our schedule and start playing more Alabamas, because the independent schedule opens up so many opportunities for them to play these other teams and bring in all this revenue on their own. So I could see that being like a leverage point. But like you said, even the financials of like the ratings that they could pull from reigniting that rivalry with Michigan on a yearly basis, make that a yearly must-watch game, night game on ABC. I mean, I'm completely with you. You talk about the Penn State, Ohio State. Those games just are money-making rating machines. So I can see both sides of it, and I think it's really a matter of if they want to keep that integrity of independent. And I think they can make the money one way or another. It just depends which way they lean. I think they can leverage this Big Ten contract to their advantage. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an absolutely great point you bring up, Jack. The best point of the day, though, is our friends over at Som Sleep. Guys, it's changed my life, period. Sleeping wise, relaxation wise, you're traveling, you had long days, you can't wind down, or you got a nap late in the day and you can't fall asleep. Som Sleep is the answer. Get Som Sleep, S-O-M. Get Som Sleep, S-O-M. Promo code Colin. Promo code Colin. Check it out. It is the best product. The natural magnesiums, the natural ingredients they have in there just wind you down. You're not groggy in the morning. And again, for someone that has balancing all the things that I'm trying to balance, sleep is the most important thing for me recovery wise, and to sleep through the night. So I take Som Sleep every day. I've said it on here before. It is absolutely changing my career. I'm up in the morning, no grogginess, ready to go. Great night's sleep. So check them out, guys. Get Som Sleep, promo code Colin. Okay. Are we ready? Are we ready to rate some public transportation? And I think I'm going to go to Jay Brad here because he's been on the sideline. He's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Like, this could potentially be another just asinine comment from a co-host on the Colin Thompson show. And guess, listen, some of my comments are asinine too. Some people are probably slamming their, hands on the steering wheel, driving through like Spitting Chicklets does, Spitting Chicklets does, like, Donnie from Doylestown slamming on the steering wheel, like, Colin, shut up about the Big Ten. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't mess with my Penn State team. So I'm sorry, Donnie, in advance. I've stopped talking. I'm going to send it to Jay Brad. We're going to be rating public transportation. What is public transportation do you enjoy the most, starting with 5 down to 1? Jay Brad, you're up.
All right. So starting with 5, you got the good old tram car. At the boardwalk.
Watch the tram car, please.
Some people don't like watch the tram car, please. It drills it into your head. It's a good marketing scheme, to use the tram car. So I got to go tram car 5. Number 4, a ferry. Nice little ferry. Maybe put your car on it, Don't have to drive as far. It does it for you. You just got to put the car over water. They do it all for you. You get to enjoy the ride. Number 3, just a classic Uber. You can't go wrong with an Uber. I mean, I guess you can go wrong with an Uber depending on what kind of Uber you get. But just simple. And number 2, excuse me, I have a train. Being from Lancaster, we have the Lancaster train station right around the corner from me, down the street. So it's pretty easy for me to get places. And then I'm going to see, this is a thing. Whenever I edit these clips, it's terrible for me because I always have to listen to Jack like twice or more than that when I'm editing these clips. So it's hard. So if he can spin some things around with Gatorade bottles, I'm going to spin some things around. All right. So number 1, I got the horse and buggy. It's not a public transportation for a lot of people, but we do have tourists who do use horse and buggy rides around Lancaster. So it's always cool to see that. But number 1 for me is a horse and buggy as public transportation representing Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
So some people are going to say that stinks. I think it's creative. Now, if Jack said it, I would have said it was a bad one. But You are from Lancaster. It makes sense. Love it, Jay Brad. Thank you for joining the Colin Thompson show for the first time too, by the way. Jack, what do you have, my friend?
All right. Listen, I'm not going to lie. I struggled coming up with a list. I had like 4 set ones, and I'm like sitting there. I'm texting JA too because we're talking about just like planning stuff. I'm like, what are my 5 transportation ones? He gave me one on this list that's good. So number 5, I have the bus. I mean, I'm not a big fan of this, like the SEPTA bus or anything. I hate being stuck behind them when I'm driving. So they're not my favorite. Number 4, I've got the subway. It's not clean. It gets you where you need to be very fast, very efficient. That, like a New York City subway, like that is, it's definitely interesting being in one, but the transportation wise, it's very efficient. 3, I have the train, especially if it's got Wi-Fi. A train with Wi-Fi is golden. Number 2, I have the bird scooters. Do you know what a bird scooter is, Colin?
I do, Jack.
I'm just making sure. They were all over the place in downtown Charlotte when we were down there for training camp. I didn't have a chance to use one, but I just know I would absolutely love one of those. And then number 1, again, controversial number 1, walking. I'm a big walking guy. I love walking everywhere. Walking is accessible. It's free. I'm a big walking guy. Like if I could, like, that's why I want to live in the city. It's just walking block to block to block. Like, I'm reliable with my 2 feet, gets me exactly where I need to be there when I need to get there.
So now we're going to have to rate modes of travel via foot because that's not public transportation, Jack.
It's
Walking,
free.
but that's nothing to do with it. Public transportation is not free. Sometimes it is, but nothing's free. You pay for it in your taxes or whatever you pay for, whatever that may be. Jack, next time we rate modes to get around by foot, walk, run, jog, sprint, skip, that will be in there. But again, Jack Connell, what? J-Rad, I feel bad. Make him edit this clip.
Yeah, I have to hear his voice like 20 times because I have to go in, back, edit some things, put some pictures on the screen. I have to hear this 20 times for one. So you get to hear it only once.
Do I need to talk? I think I need to toss somebody under the bus here because I'm willing to stick by one. I'm willing to stick by one. The person that put it in my head is JA. JA is the one who brought up walking. And I'm like, you know what? That's a perfect number one.
So
I stand by it.
If he jumps off the bridge, doesn't mean you jump off the bridge behind him.
Listen, he played in my head. I'm like, that's perfect.
I mean, that's what we do in non-for-long media here. We're a family, baby. But I mean, hey, listen, Jack. You know what? It's good though. It's good banter because the women's lacrosse community is going to be after you again, which I love. It's great.
Oh, I would be shocked if they weren't attacking me for something.
Public transportation. Of all the things you say walking. All right, I'm going to give my list. So I'm going to put number 5, the subway. Right? People may hate on the subway, but I do like how it takes you around. If you know how to get around on it, it drops you here one place, 5 minutes later you're down here, especially if you get on the express rail. Love the subway. 2, jitney, right? If you're down the Jersey Shore, jitney is a fantastic mode of public transportation. They just have one in Cape May now that actually loops around the whole island. So you can hop on that and pop around to different places. That's really nice. Number 3, the monorail. Not traveled as much, but in some cities they have it. We get the train kind of above ground, above city situation, popular in like a Disney type thing or like a airport. You see that. So love me a monorail. Number 2, I'm going to go with the ferry. The ferry's great. I take the Cape May Lewis ferry quite a bit between Cape May, New Jersey and Lewis, Delaware. You can pull your car on there. You can pull your camper on there. You can walk on there. You can bike on there. There's food. There's drinks. It's a pretty cool thing. Up for the bar of the week could be the Cape May Lewis ferry. They have live bands on it. And it goes, an hour and a half between Cape May and Lewis, Delaware. So love a ferry. And then number 1 is the train. If you're on an Amtrak train and, you could be on Wi-Fi, you're hanging out, just a way to travel on a train. Can't be beaten. It's calm. It's relaxing. You could take a nap. You can do a lot of different things. You get to point A to point B. You can have a couple cocktails. You can enjoy yourself. It's safe. So I'm going to go with the train. So subway, jitney, monorail, ferry, and then number 1, a train. So any comments from you, J. Brad, because now you're trusted in this, unlike Jack.
No, you had 2 of mine on your list, the ferry and the train, so can't go wrong there. Jack's list, it was okay. I like Jack's list, but then the walking kind of threw me off, and now I'm just mad. So thanks, Jack. But yeah, those are my thoughts on those 2 lists.
Before we set up a new segment that we're going to be doing here at Not For Long Media that I'm really excited about, I want to talk about our friends over at SeatGeek, guys. SeatGeek, can't beat it. $20 off any order, $50 or more. Tickets these days, everybody know, they're expensive. That's just the way of our world. So get a couple tickets to a Phillies game, get that $20 off, bring that price down a little bit. Use promo code Colin Thompson, COLINTHOMPSON. My full name, no space. Pop it in there. $20 off your order to any tickets, concerts. Those summer concerts, can't beat them. I know Jack in the back definitely was at, Susquehanna Bank or whatever it's called now. Back in your day, Jack's running around watching John Mayer, saying your body is a wonderland or something like that. Or maybe that was just me when I was in 9th grade, but that's neither here nor there. Pop the code in, Colin Thompson, SeatGeek, guys. Check them out. Awesome events coming up. Football season's here. Baseball season's at full swing. So concert season, like I said, this summer, can't beat it. So SeatGeek, check it out. Promo code Colin Thompson. Okay, so we have a new segment here. And it hit me the other day. I'm sitting on bus 4. And what bus 4 is the 4th bus on the, 8 bus brigade that you take to the stadium or you take to the team hotel or you take from the airport to the hotel or whatever that may be. And when you play football or you're part of, any sport, you have a list. They give you like your hotel room key and they give you like your bus you're on or your seat number on the plane. So I'm not a starter in the NFL. I'm not a starter on our team. So I'm on bus 4. right? It just happens like that. I think one's and all. I don't know how it all blends together, but you have a mix of like coaches and players on the bus. Like bus one is like starters, right? Guys that are like starting the game. So in college, I think I was on bus 1 or 2 sometimes, like later in my career, right? But early in my career, I was like bus 8, bus 10. So a lot of people put like high ranking tiers of the people that like you support or you like, or, hey, someone who's been with us and not for long media for a long time, they're a bus oneer. They're a bus one type person. They've been with us. They're high ranking on our list. And I'm going to fill a bus, and we're going to continue to fill buses. That'll all be bus one with a weekly person of choice from me. And then moving forward, anybody who comes on our show, they'll pick somebody who they think is a bus one member that deserves it because of their actions, whether they're a great player, they had a great moment, whether they did a cool thing off the field, philanthropically, whether, there's a coach that you liked that, got into a fight with, another coach, and you think that guy, you have respect for those people, somebody you have respect for, could be a fan of the show, fan of you. So there'll be a bus one person. So like, I really got it, because I was sitting there and I'm like, I think we need to like give people respect, give people due for what they do in this business, instead of like, the person of the week. We're going to do this. I got it because, Bussin' with the Boys, they're a Barstool podcast. They're the number one, Barstool football show. And they like rank people like tier talks, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 fans. So if you're a bus one person with Not For Long Media, you're following us on social media, you're supporting what we're doing, you're subscribing to our YouTube, you're involved in what we're doing. So shout out to all the bus one people that listen every week. It's been great adding some Panthers fans. I know I've seen some people reach out. You guys are bus oneers. Thank you guys for your support. All my friends, family, all of you guys, friends and family who listen, we support you. Our team, we thank you, and our team here at Not For Long Media thanks you. So if there's someone who comes into mind here that's a bus one type person for you guys, let me know throughout this, because I'm about to go on another rant here. And let me pull this up. Of course, I took it down like a dope. But there was a fight last week in the Premier League, okay? And it was not between players. It was between coaches. Thomas Tuchel, and I hope I'm saying that right, the Chelsea head coach, and Antonio Conte, the Tottenham head coach, got into a scuffle, an absolute scuffle during the game. First off, Tottenham scores, and Conte kind of turns and like goes crazy towards the Chelsea bench and approaches the coach a little bit, but staying in his restricted area. And the Chelsea coach got fired up and went at him a little bit, right? Little confrontation. They got split up, but a great goal. Tottenham ended up drawing Chelsea after being down, I think, 2 goals. And then they won again. So I will continue to wear my Tottenham hat when things are going well, and I will continue to wear my Phillies shirt when things are going well. I'm a bandwagon Phillies fan. I admit it. I am now watching them all the time now. Go Phils. So Chelsea scores. Tuchel, I think his name is, comes running down and he goes crazy. They're at Chelsea. He comes running out of his like kind of restricted area. I think he got suspended for a game and got fined for it. But what makes them bus oneers is how they handled this off the field. So first off, right, Conte's kind of poking fun and making jokes like, we wouldn't fight. This is what people do, competitive. Like, I would take him in a fight. Tuchel's saying the same thing. But I think the thing about Tuchel that I respected, again, I'm like a Tottenham fan who's like ready to watch this Chelsea press conference and hate this guy even more, because at the end of it, they had a real aggressive handshake and they both wouldn't let go of their hands and they kind of got in a tussle. The players came over. It got a little chippy. Was the Chelsea coach at the end, like, this is 2 coaches fired up, love their team, passionate about the players, love the city. Again, was all about the passion and all about the players. And I thought that was really cool that they are just defending their guys and they're doing everything they can. And they're just fiery people that are competitors. And this won't be the last time 2 coaches get fiery with each other, because we love our job and we care about our players. And I love that. Again, does a media person love it? No, because it's not like, hey, screw that guy, right? That's what the media people want you to say. That's what we kind of want you to say, right? So we can talk about it. But I'm bringing it to light, and that's what making them a bus one type guys is. Tuchel and Conte, they're going to be on our bus. You're going to see a graphic come out. We'll have a picture of a bus, and we're going to have their 2 heads kind of on the side of it, because they're bus one guys to me. They're guys that are, Lions, people that, I'd want to be one in my bus one, my starter. So Tuchel and Conte are our first bus one guys. Jack, what do you think of the bus one, man? What are your thoughts on it?
I honestly love the idea. I mean, it's so unique. Everybody had, like you said, everybody kind of has their tiers, their Mount Rushmores. It's a definitely a unique one that doesn't, like you said, like the bus can be ever expanding. Like you never can leave anybody out. Like everybody who is should be up there is included. I think it's a great kind of way, just a great play on words and a great way to honor everybody, like you said, that deserves it. So
Yeah,
I'm all
and
for it.
thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. And you work for the pod, so you have to say positive things. So I appreciate that. But I do appreciate, and this, I appreciate your opinion. So yeah, I like it. I think bus one, it's going to grow. It's not, Mount Rushmore. Everybody has that. Let's go back to the phones. Who do you think's on the Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia Sports Talk Radio? Go. Brian Dawkins, Chase Huntley. All right. So, Jay Brad. So are you all Philly sports, buddy, being in Lancaster?
Yeah, I am. I had to choose, so I was like in that weird spot where it was like Steelers, Eagles. There's an occasional, garbage Dallas fan. We have some few Dolphins. We have like 5 Dolphins fans in Lancaster. It's weird. I know 5 Dolphins fans. So, I mean, respect out down to Miami. But growing up, my dad, liked Philly sports, so I kind of just got thrown into it, and I'm happy to be a Philly sports fan. So yeah.
Are you happy to be a Philly sports fan, Jack?
Sometimes. It depends on the day.
Oh, gosh, here we go. Okay, folks, before we get to the bar of the week, again, our friends at SeatGeek, promo code Colin Thompson, $20 off your tickets to a game, concert, event. Som Sleep, promo code Colin, Colin. SeatGeek is Colin Thompson, full name. Som Sleep is Colin, first name. Wealth Advisory Services, if you don't know them, you should. Unbelievable. They're great, first-class approach to managing your wealth. Great people. Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge across the country. And then the bar of the week, folks. Again, I appreciate everybody who's been tuning in on this. I had someone ask me today, a friend, say, these bar of the weeks, like, do people send them to you or like, what's the deal? I'm like, no, these are all places I just have been to multiple times. And then someone's like, oh, I know what you do when you're off day now. No. I think I have a pretty good balance, especially during the season. But I do like to travel. I do like to see a lot of things. And I've been very blessed to be able to do that at a young age, as in my 20s now, to travel and do different things and see different things. It allows me to enjoy in some adult beverages, 21 and older folks, and, hang out and go to some cool places. And some of them are bar restaurants. So the bar of the week this week is the Red Bar in Grayton Beach, Florida. This place is incredible. When it comes to the ambiance, when it comes to just how cool the inside of this place is, it's a 5 out of 5. And we're going to get to the rating system in a minute. But the place actually burned down, but they rebuilt it the same exact way. And it's incredible. They have everything is red. All the lights inside are red. And it kind of sounds funky, but when you go in there, it's such a cool vibe. It's a very kind of like New Orleans-y vibe, like a lot of stuff on the wall, a lot of neon signs, a lot of really cool pictures. They have great music. It's cozy. Like they have like a little couch around the band and they have all these like tables that are kind of tight and they kind of pack you in. Then you wrap around to the bar and there's like windows between the bar and the restaurant, kind of like it was like a house at one point in time. And the bar is super cool. Great service. They have an outdoor area in the back. They have a little side seating area, and they have it's just a really cool, well laid out place and a lot of history where a lot of people have gone to. Vince Vaughn has been there. All the military members that are kind of up there in the Panhandle, they all go there. So all their like helmets and call signs and stickers and patches are all over the place. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for just a really good time when you want to sit and eat and have like a family meal or go sit at the bar and have a good time, watch a game. It's great. And you have like kind of no service line area too, which makes it really kind of cool and kind of the end of road spot. So the bar of the week this week is the Red Bar in Grayton Beach, Florida, right down the street from Shungoli, which we had a couple weeks back. So cold beer and drinks, it's a 4 out of 5. Cold beer, it's great. And they make awesome cocktails. TVs, again, not a bar you're going to watch games, but they have big enough TVs to go and watch a game and have a good time. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Ambiance and food, 5 out of 5. They have a short menu. They come out literally with a chalkboard. There's like 6 things on it. That's it. And like 2 appetizers. And you pick from those 7 things. They're great. The fish dip, the pasta, the fish, everything is tremendous. Absolutely love what they do there. So 4 out of 5 on the cold beer, 3 out of 5 on the TVs, 5 out of 5 on the food and ambience. And then the service is awesome. The bartenders, the servers, such a cool place. So another solid score, Jack. Jack was wondering when we're going to start dipping. Another 17 out of 20 on the CT show scale. In Grayton Beach, Florida, the Red Bar is your bar of the week. So another 17 out of 20, Jack.
I'm impressed. We've been keeping them consistently high. I know you said you only like to review the best of the best bars, so I'm appreciating the tough score because we know every bar you're bringing on here is a good bar.
That's all we do, Jack. Is good bars and good restaurants. So, J. Brad, anything before you roll here after your first episode of the CT show?
I'm just happy to be here. Go Birds! I know Colin
Oh,
will love that. Go Birds!
just so
But
Billy.
no.
Go Birds.
But anyways, I was happy to be here. I'm always on behind the scenes editing, so it's been cool to be like live, seeing it live and trying to think in my head of how I'm gonna edit these now in real time, not after the fact. So, and now I have to hear Jack again about his transportation like 5 more times after this. So I'm looking forward to that.
We're going to rank public transportation. Okay, how about walking?
Yeah,
It's available to everybody. So
that's Jack Connell. I'm Colin Thompson. That's Justin Bradley. Another episode of the Colin Thompson Show. We're going to send over to Brandon Zylstra, one of my favorite teammates, toughest guys, great person, great player I've ever played with. Thank you to our sponsors, and we're going to send it over to the Brandon Zylstra episode. All right, we're here live at Wofford College at training camp again, checking in. We've had some awesome interviews so far, and we get to have the great Brandon Zylstra join us today. How you doing, B?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have Zyl in the building, someone I have a ton of respect for, someone that we've tried to have on the pod, and it's great to finally have you here. Zylstra's had an amazing story, and we're going to get into that, but I think we have to start off the jump. Take us back to Buffalo, week 15, 16
Right
last
about
year,
there, yeah.
where you're going through your normal warm-up. Brandon plays wide receiver in the NFL. He plays major roles on special teams in the NFL. And all of a sudden, Chase Blackburn walks into our locker room and says, "Can anybody kick? Zane got hurt in warm-ups." Can you take us through kind of your pre-practice, some of your cool pre-practice routines that you've kind of built up over the years, and then the moment where you're like, okay, my routine has now changed and I need to go kick a football in warm-ups to see if I can still do it?
Yeah, it was a pretty standard practice routine. Getting out there, I like to, just kind of walk around for a little bit, get acclimated to everything. Just catch some footballs. Everything was pretty standard that day. We get into the locker room after like our first initial warm-up. Coach Blackburn walks in and it's just like, "I need somebody who kicked in college or high school. Anybody. I was just like, "Sure, I did it." He's like, "All right, we need you for tryouts quick." And so it was me, Frankie, and PJ. And we all went out there, and he's just like, all I need you to do is just go squib it as hard as you can. So I kicked one. He's like, "Good enough, you're in."
So that was it, one take. Did anybody else kick kickoffs?
I think Frankie tried one. PJ, I don't think even ever tried one. Maybe he did, but it was honestly as quick as that. Because like, obviously never kicked in college, high school. The only reason I did kickoffs was because our kicker got hurt. So it was honestly like the same situation where I ended up kicking off for probably more than half the year. And what's super nice, and this is kind of why Chase wanted me there as well, is nobody blocks a kicker. So back in high school, I remember I would kick off and be the first one down there to go make a tackle. Because, who's going to block a kicker? And so
You're not a part of the kicking scheme. Literally, who's going to block your kicker? Nobody, unless you're me and you miss a block, and then you implant Graham Gano into the sideline after a whistle and somehow not get fined. That was a very sketchy moment for me. But I thought I was going to lose my paycheck that week. Have you been fined in the league?
I have not yet.
Have you been warned?
Not even warned. Like, as far as like jersey fines and stuff, I'm about as simple as they come for that very reason. I was just like, it's super hard to earn this paycheck. I'm not going to do anything dumb to lose it. So I'm your very standard, prototypical, create-a player without adding any swag on my body. I keep everything very simple.
You do. You play with plenty of swagger. So what Brandon's alluding to is we have to have socks that cover our ankles. We have to have, certain things that we have to wear to cover things up, tucked in. Everything has to be done right. And then after warm-ups, equipment staff comes in and says, "Hey, listen, you were flagged. If you decided not to do it, then you could get fined. You will be fined for what you did during the game."
And the fines aren't something small either. It's It's enough to lose a full paycheck over.
Yeah.
So
we're talking 10, 15, 20,000 per se. Now,
not worth it.
When I was talking about fines, Brandon was more of, maybe you put your helmet by accident, it could cost you 15 grand, like stuff like that. It's part of the fine system in the league, and we sign on it, and we all know about it. It's not like it's a surprise thing, or anybody's trying to really screw us over. It's just kind of a part of the game, protecting players. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so when Coach Rivera was here, it was my first year, 2019. That was the game we played out in London. And one of the teammates, we had a bet. He's just like, I bet you won't do a backflip. So like we were kneeling, we were winning the game. And I would go out there for the kneel, to be the far back guy. And he's like, I bet you $200 you won't do a backflip. And I was like, okay. So at the end of the game, we snapped the ball, kneeled it, they blew the whistle, and I did a backflip to like celebrate. And some people saw it, some people did. They thought it was kind of funny. Well, I walk into meetings like the next Monday morning, and Coach Rivera hands me a letter. And he's like, did your agent talk to you? And I was like, no, about what? He's like, you were fined by the league. And I said, for what? He's just like, doing that backflip. And so we open up meetings. He's just like, I don't know if any of you guys saw, maybe you guys did see, but we had somebody on the team who, I can't remember what it was, but like it was an official letter with the NFL stamp and like a signature, a printed out signature, and it said like, under code, blah, 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 you were misconduct of blase, blase. And, but it was just a big joke to him. So he like played the clip and everything, and then, at the end of it, said he was joking. But that was pretty funny, because I was just like, they're really fining me for that? I think it was like $5K he fined me for. But I don't know. That was just something that was super funny that Coach Rivera did.
That's a great joke.
Still have that letter.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got to keep that letter.
I got that letter.
I've got a couple letters that I got cut from, and that's the hardest pill to swallow. Where it's like literally they have to give you a letter legally of what you got cut, and it's like unsatisfactory performance, and you're like, man. Even though like on the phone they're like, hey, listen, like we're making the move for personnel, or which is 50% of it, right? Like whatever it may be. If you're getting shuffled off in a practice squad, or you're getting shuffled on a practice squad or an active roster, I saved all those letters for sure. Let's go back to Buffalo though. So from my perspective, the week before that, I think, or 2 weeks before that, I got put on the practice squad. And I remember Chase coming in the locker room, and I'm like just hanging out. It's freezing cold. I'm like sipping on hot chocolate. Like I'm not doing anything. I'm just literally waiting for the game. And he comes in, and then a couple guys like go running out to warm up. You were one of them. So I'm like, I cannot miss this. I'm not missing this. It's snowing. We're in Buffalo. Such a cool environment to play, first off. And then we're going to see a kicking competition. So I saw everyone kick field goals. PJ goes up and toe blows it.
Yes.
And he was horrible with it, and they kept showing that clip. But after that, he made like a 30-yarder. You made a decent one. Who else kicked? Was it just you two?
I think Frankie might have tried one too.
It was horrible.
All of us were just spraying left, spraying right, dribbling off the thing. Like it was ugly.
Yeah, it was ugly, and it was cold too. But that's why it worked for you, probably, because in high school you kicked in cold weather. Now, can you take us through how do you do with the game? Because it's one thing to like kick and warm ups, but all of a sudden like you're on national TV, you're lining up to kick off, and then cover.
Honestly, I had zero pressure. Like as a receiver, nobody has expectations of me to kick well or anything. So like, I thought it was something just super fun to do. And I always joke around with Coach Chase all the time, telling him, I was just like, hey, I'm an athlete now. I can do it all. I can do whatever. I was like, just put me somewhere. And that's why you see me long snapping. That's why you see me holding. I've returned kicks in the NFL. I've returned punts in the NFL. Caught passes, thrown passes, and now kick. So it's just something to add to the resume.
Wow. That's big time.
Since that day, have you practiced kicking since then, just in case?
No. No, I think that was a one and done, probably in retirement now.
Let's hope so.
Unless the situation were to ever come up again, it's on my resume, so maybe I'll get the call up, but no, I'll probably leave that to Johnny Hecker now.
That's a good point, yeah. Do you want to, I want to take it way back, though. I want to go back to D2 and D3 college football. In D3 football, first of all, I didn't realize that they don't give scholarships for D3 athletes, do they?
No.
So you're paying for your entire tuition back then, right?
Yeah, not only that, I was just telling somebody this in the locker room the other day. I was a dual sport athlete. I also did track for 2 years in college, and I had to pay for my own track jersey.
No.
Yeah.
With like the school name on it that you had to pay for that?
Yeah. That's the life of a D3 athlete.
Concordia, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Was like the prospect of going into debt something that you weighed heavily back then? Like, I want to play football, but also I have to pay for it.
So like originally coming out of high school, to me that wasn't anything. Obviously, they talk about scholarships and stuff, and I always wanted to be a Division I athlete. Never really had any opportunities and ever have any phone calls for the Division I. But when I got to Division II, you learn a little bit about scholarships. But for me, it was more about pride. I was just like, I want the biggest scholarship I can, to prove I belong here, to prove that I fit in with these guys and whatnot. And so I had a half ride to Augustana, my first college. And then, switching to D3, it's not something I thought about until I was actually there. And then you see the amount of debt you rack up. And by the time you're done, yes, if I were to go back, I would have maybe done something different. As far as trying to find scholarships or do something, because when you step off campus, like, that number was hefty.
Yeah. Now you went from D2 to D3. What happened there?
So I started out at Augustana Division II college in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We had a super good team and everything. Honestly, that's where I learned my greatest deal of patience. If I would have stayed there, I think the transition to the league would have been much easier. It was a spread offense. I would have got a ton of looks. We had a super good quarterback. The team I was with ended up being super good, but in that time, I was just very impatient. I kind of felt like disrespected. I felt like I should have been playing. There was a game in particular that essentially made my decision. We were out in Wayne State, Nebraska, and we had a couple of receivers go down, and so assuming I'm the next person up, but instead of putting me up, I was a redshirt freshman at the time, but instead of putting me up, they put a tight end out at receiver, and at that point I'm just like, dude, why don't these guys trust me? Because I'm hearing constant reviews from players and some of the coaches that I'm not sure why you're not playing. And I had those conversations with my receivers coach, my offensive coordinator, head coach about what I can do to play, what I can do to help this team more, because I felt like I could have done more than what I was doing. And at that time, or after that season, because that kind of started the whole transfer process to me. I was just like, man, I just want to play football. I don't want to sit here anymore. Football's not fun watching from the sidelines. I want to be active. I want to be involved. And that year, the entire coaching staff got wiped out, so they're bringing in somebody new. I had, we had 34 people in our recruiting class, and I think there was 15 of us left. And by the time I decided I wanted to transfer with the new head coaching staff coming in and whatnot, so I just wanted to play ball. I think maybe 8 out of my class graduated out of there. A lot of people transferred out.
That's such a unique story. It's such a unique grind. When you went down to Division III, right now you're in the NFL, and you say, I look back and. How were you handling that situation? Because there's an ego involved in it. Even for me, when I was at Florida and I transferred to Temple and I was medically disqualified and I got to Temple and I was like, man, I can play with these guys. Like, I played at Florida, I played against the best defensive ends and best backers, and I played against the best defense in the country at one point every day in practice. And now I'm going to Temple, like I should be able to do well. And then all of a sudden your ego sets in and then you get your ass kicked by people that, so it was just a whole thing, like for me mentally. That was a really tough time for me. The transfer process, going from palm trees to Philly, from my now wife, but dating my girlfriend at the time, leaving that socially, how was that for you? Was that a challenge, or was it something you embraced, or it was a clean cut and you're ready to move on?
So for me, the reason I ended up transferring to Concordia, and honestly didn't even look anywhere else, because in my whole recruiting process in high school, the only D3 I ever visited was Concordia, and the only reason is because my brother went there. He went for a defensive end, and I had a ton of my friends from my high school were either at that college or in that area. There's 3 colleges around there, and so I was very familiar with the area. And I honestly because I knew the head coach, just from my brother going there. He had came to our home a few times to visit my brother and myself, and so I kind of had a relationship there. And so I just knew that the transition from Augustana to Concordia was going to be super easy. And so when I decided I wanted to transfer, I didn't honestly even look anywhere else. I just called, his name is Terry Horan, called him up and just like, yo, you still got a spot for me? He's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, get down here. And so it was honestly as simple as that. No really ego involved in it, because I was never about, I just wanted to play ball. I've always loved ball. I've always felt like I could do more than what I was ever portrayed to do. I felt like I was always kind of underrated in a sense. And it wasn't ever about proving other people wrong, proving coaches wrong or anything. It was always just proving myself right. Because I was like, I know I can play this game at a high level. let's go show, not show people, show myself, prove to myself that, I can do this. And so that's more about what it was for me.
You've talked about like getting the transition and the experience at the college level and how that would help you prepare for the next level. I think you said the D2 probably would have been a little bit better for that. When you did make the transition from college to pro ball, coming from a D3, did you guys run a triple option?
Yes. So,
I was reading that. Do you think that put you at like behind the 8 ball when you moved to the next level, just from that system you were in?
honestly, like I've told other people, I think I would literally put myself about as low as you can go. Being a D3 athlete, running a triple option where I might see anywhere from 3 to 5 balls a game. So my stats were never as good as they could have been. I complained to my coaches. I still have a super good relationship with my my OC from college. I still tell him all the time when I talk to him, it's like, hey, you need to feed me the ball more. And he goes, Brandon, I know. But
hey, that's great though. I mean, at the end of the day, like really, it's funny because you probably developed a lot of the roles that you're in now in the NFL. Obviously, you can get open. You've caught balls in this league. You played on special teams. You had to block a ton in that offense. And now all of a sudden you find yourself in the league and like you have those tools already in your tool belt. Was such a cool thing. All right, so the triple option, you're not getting a ton of footballs your way. My senior year in college, I caught 3 passes and a 2-point conversion. They don't count that as a caught pass, so I like to throw that in there. If I say 4 passes and people fact check me, they say, no, you only caught 3. So, but when did the NFL come knocking for you? Did it ever really knock? I know your story, but I wanted to get it to our audience the best way possible. When did the NFL come knocking, and then when was the first opportunity?
So that was, I decided at a super young age that I always wanted to play in the NFL. I never really told people about it. I told my mom when I was younger. And it's funny because I kind of have a story about that too, because I remember telling my mom, I must have been 5th grade maybe. I stayed late after practice one day, 5th and 6th grade tackle football. And when she came and picked me up, I got in the car and I was just like, Mom, I'm gonna be an NFL player. I'm gonna play in the NFL. And to this day, she still tells me the story and we still laugh about it. But she said something like, probably not something a mom should say, but she was just like, oh, that's great, honey, but let's think of something a little bit more realistic. And I looked at her and I was just like, don't tell people what they can and can't do. And so that's a story that we still tell each other and we still kind of laugh about to this day.
It's funny too, to cut you off. My mom and I have had the same conversations, and my mom's not better than your mom. Your mom's a wonderful lady. But my mom said, yes, son, you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yep.
And you had that same, the same mantra. But I thought it was funny. I've had the same conversation with my parents at a young age, and it's hard to share it with people because everyone thinks you're crazy.
Yes.
You're not going to make it. There's no way. And now Brandon and his brother both play in the NFL.
Yep.
So that's really cool stuff. But continue your story or any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it was really like my sophomore year of college. I was just like, I'm going to make an NFL push. And then, as the years got, my junior and my senior year, everything just became a little bit more realistic to me I was just like, I don't know what I want to do after college. Like, why not go try to play football? Like, I don't want a real job, as I say. Like, I want to keep playing this game. And I just want to see how far I can take this thing. Because like I said, I've always felt like I can do more than I've ever been portrayed to do. Be better than people see me or whatever. And I always want to prove myself right and see how good I could actually become. And so after my senior year of college, my quarterback my junior year, I was with him for 2 years. He went off to the GFL. He was in GFL 2. He did it really just to travel. He enjoyed playing the sport too and didn't really know what he wanted to do. So I'm just like, I'm going to go explore Germany. So he played over in Germany and ended up winning the championship, was MVP of the league and whatnot. And he's just like, you know what, I want to see what I can do too. And so he found a quarterback coach by the name of Rudy Carpenter out of Phoenix, Arizona. And he moved down there to start training with him. And after I graduated, because I graduated in December of 15, I hit him up and he was just like, yo, come train with me down here. I got a quarterback coach, I got a gym we can work with. He's just like, let's go chase this thing. And I was like, cool. So I literally just threw all my stuff in my car, drove down there, 24-and-a-half-hour drive.
I was going to say, how long is that drive?
24-and-a-half-hour drive, made it in 26.
Really?
I stopped to stretch, fill up with gas, and eat. Otherwise, I drove straight because I was just like, dude, I just want to get there. I don't want to. And I also didn't have money to stay in hotels and stuff. So
for those at home, this is really what the NFL looks like. Half the NFL is undrafted, so this is really what it looks like.
Yeah, so I ended up going down there, and me and him honestly just our life was training and grinding and just trying to network and stuff because I didn't have an agent. So I'm doing all this on my own. And we'd spend the morning training maybe. And then when we had some downtime in like the afternoon, I would literally sit on the computer, just from talking with people out in Arizona, just training with different people. I developed like a little network of emails. It was literally just an email chain list that I accumulated over time. And I made a little athlete resume with my 40 time, statistics, coaches, blah, blah, blah. And would send it out, just email blast people. I do that once or twice a week. I heard a reply from I think 3 teams ever. But would do that. We researched the CFL because I didn't know anything about the CFL. Found out they had tryouts there's one in Vegas that we went to. Then there's 3 in Phoenix. And so I went to those, and I went to 4 of those tryouts.
Wow.
From 3 of those, had 3 minicamp offers, or 3 contract offers essentially. And
From CFL or NFL?
From the CFL.
Well, the CFL workout, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so then from there, went to like the NFL Regional Combine. So, you pay $250. I worked out at the Cardinals facility. Just put you through a bunch of different drills and whatnot. And then all that, led me up to the draft. Obviously knew I wasn't getting drafted, but tried to watch it anyway and kind of see where everybody else was going.
Just in case your name pops up and goes along the screen.
Well, yeah, because again, I didn't have an
cool to be a
agent.
part
I
of
didn't know what the process was like, and so I should probably backtrack a little bit. I don't know if you guys know much about the CFL and that whole process, but from those 3 contract offers I had, every single one of them, when they like sent me the contract or whatever, they're just like, don't tell anybody else. We're talking to you. We want to kind of keep this under wraps. And to me, I'm not thinking twice about that. But after I got my 3rd one, I was just like, okay, Brandon, you got 3 contract offers. Let's try to see if I can negotiate myself, try to get some extra money or something like that. Like, try to bid these people out. And so the first team I called up was Edmonton because they were the last contract to offer me. I was just like, yo, I already have 2 of the contract offers. I was just like, can we talk a little bit? He goes, oh, you do? All right, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. So he hung up and he called me back and he's like, we just put you on our neg list, which is called the negotiation list. And what that means is they get 22 players they can slot out where they put on this neg list and nobody else can talk to you. So it's like a sanctioned whatever. So like a lot of guys you see on there, you might see like a Lamar Jackson, Johnny Manziel, like players that might be big or might not make it in the NFL. They have, like, if they ever want to go play in the CFL, they would have to go to that respected team because they're in that slot.
Is Lamar Jackson leaving the NFL?
Was he? Is he?
Yeah.
Not that I know. I think he's pretty safe.
Okay, good.
But like, you'll see a lot of bigger names on that.
Really?
Yep.
That's crazy.
A lot of guys that they will scout in college, or they might be Canadian, but they know they're going to the NFL or might have a good shot at the NFL, but they're going to claim them anyway, essentially.
So even if they're good in the league, it doesn't matter. They're going to just put them on the neg list forever.
Just in case, maybe like at the end of their career, like I think like Robert Griffin was on there for a really long time. I just remember Johnny Manziel was on there. But you'll see some bigger names on there.
That's cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, you think it's cool, but
well, I was gonna say it's not. Let me say this. It sounds. I shouldn't say that's cool.
It sounds prestigious.
It's interesting, but it sounds a horrible thing for you because now you have no negotiation power.
Yes, and so like when they told me that, they're just like, if any other team tries to contact you, let us know. And so I had to call the other 2 teams back, and I was like, just to let you guys know, Edmonton put me on their neg list. They're just like, oh, are you serious? Well, best of luck. If anything ever doesn't work out in the future, just, let us know. And so then essentially what Edmonton did, they're just like, all right, cool. Again, no agent. They're just like, we're going to send you down a contract. Why don't you sign it and date it, or sign it, we won't date it, and we'll just kind of have it in storage. Because I told them, they're just like, what is your goal? And I said, I want to play in the NFL. NFL has always been my dream. I want to play there. They're just like, cool, we'll be a good safety net for you, essentially. And I was like, all right, everything sounds good to me. I looked over the contract. I went over it with my OC and my head coach. And they're just like, yeah, everything looks good. Let's sign it and fax it back to them. So I did that. I'm thinking everything's straight. A day after the draft is when they bring in all those free agents for like minicamp and whatnot. So the Vikings call me and they're just like, has any team picked you up yet? And I said, no. They're just like, all right, cool. We want to bring you to minicamp. And I'm ecstatic. I'm playing for the hometown team. I understand it's a minicamp tryout. but it's more than anything else I had. And so I'm super excited. And, you know, all my family and friends are calling me because it's getting pushed out on social medias and whatnot. And then it was the next day the Vikings called back and they said, Brandon, you're under contract with another team. And I said, no, I'm not. And they're just like, yeah, you are. The Edmonton Eskimos called us and you're under contract with them, so we can't have you anymore.
Oh.
And I was just like, no, we have a misunderstanding. I was just like, I have a contract with them, but if an NFL opportunity came up, I was going to be able to do that first. They're just like, I don't know what to tell you. You're under contract with them. You can't come here. We're going to take the next guy. And so I am so confused / you know, super hot at this time. So I call Edmonton back. They don't return my phone calls. I called the GM, left him a message, called the scout, left him a message, you know, kind of going back and forth, trying to figure this out. I ended up calling, or the scout finally got back to me, and he was just like, oh, no, sorry, we had a misunderstanding. We're going to give you, I don't even remember what it was anymore. That we were going to give you, or we had an agreement that if you got drafted, you were able to go, but if not, you were going to come with us. And I was like, that is not what we said. So I'm going through all my emails, all my voicemails, trying to find, you know, confirmation of the conversations we had. But I have nothing to validate my stuff. So I started calling like different lawyers, trying to get this contract voided. I called the CFL front office, trying to get this contract voided because I wanted this NFL opportunity. Essentially, what the lawyers are telling me and everything is that there's like, you know, because I did get in contact with an agent too, and there's like, essentially, there's nothing you can do about this. Like, they have it. So because when they heard I had the Vikings opportunity, they dated it, signed it on their end, and put it through. So took my NFL opportunity away, and I was super hot for, you know, the next day or two, and I just kept thinking, I was just like, well, it's either I never play football again or I go take this 2-year deal that I just signed with the CFL. And when it came down to it, I ended up taking that. And, you know, people like my OC, my coaches and everything they were obviously super mad about the situation as well. And they're just like, how can you go play for a team that did that to you? And I was just like, dude, I have no other choice. Like, I either bite the bullet, because I was just like, otherwise I'm not playing football anymore. And ultimately, that's what I want to do. I want to play football. So I had to swallow my pride.
You're a better man than a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really spoke about it again.
Really?
Never told anybody about it. Well, I told a few of my friends from Edmonton that I became really close with about the situation.
Was there beef with like anybody around the building?
Never spoke to anybody about it.
Good on you, man.
Like at that point, I was like, there's nothing I can do. And so I was just like, I'm not going to aggravate a situation. But it's funny because my last day in the CFL, you know, our exit meeting with our coaches, I sat down with our head coach. We just had a heartbreaking loss against our rivals in the semifinals, the game before the championship up there. And you know, you could tell he's just beat. He's kind of emotional, sitting in the office, and that was the last meeting of the day. And I sat and talked with him, and we kind of talked about the season and, you know, how it was and how much he appreciated me and stuff. And I was like, did you ever even know what happened, how I got up here? And so I ended up telling him that story, and he was in shock. He's like, bro, I had no idea about any of that. He's just like, I can't believe that, you know, good for you to make it through that. And I'm so sorry you had to go through that and blah, blah, blah. Because it essentially took, potentially, because I don't know what would have happened if I would have went to the NFL right away. But
and it's a mini camp too, so the difference is I was an undrafted player and I signed undrafted. I signed a 3-year deal, 4th-year option, your standard undrafted player contract. Brandon got invited to rookie minicamp.
So I'm essentially just a camp body there.
It's tough. It is the hardest way to make an NFL roster. Victor Cruz is like UMass guy, so he was like local, so they brought him to the Giants. He's like not the most famous one, but he's got to be one of the most recent famous ones.
Adam Thielen.
So
he went through that same exact process, being with the Vikings too. So like, that's the comparison I always had. It's like,
Did you play against him in college?
Adam? No. So he was Division II.
Okay, that's right. Okay, I always get this screwed up. But you would have played against him at no, you wouldn't have.
Actually, you know what? I think I did play against him either my redshirt year or my your redshirt freshman year or whatever, the second year. But I remember he was a name because he was really good at like punt return as well as receiver. And I remember he was one of the key guys on the scouting report. So I think I don't think I technically ever played against him, but my team while I was with the team did.
Yeah, he's a beast. I got to meet him this offseason. I know he had an impact on you too. You spent time in Minnesota, and we're going to get to that. So, CFL. When did that come to an end? How did that finish? Then when did NFL teams start reaching out to you?
Yeah, so the first year I ended up only playing 6 to 8 games. I think it was 6 regular season, 2 playoff maybe, because I was on practice roster for the first 13, 14 weeks. When I finally got my shot, I ended up doing pretty well. That gave me a lot of momentum to go into the second year. Once the second year hit, I was deemed a starter right away, which honestly is not something I really expected, because I actually came into camp with a groin injury, working out prior to camp. I told the coaches, I was like, because they had me sitting out for the first couple days, and I was like, yo, I want to make this team. Like, I don't want to be sitting out. I was like, I can push through this thing. Like, it's an injury, but like, I'm fine. They're just like, Brandon, you proved enough to us last year. Because in the championship game the year prior, I did my AC joint. I had a grade 2 sprain on my AC joint, but finished the game and did fairly well in the game. And he's just like, you proved to me how tough you are last year. He's like, you just rest your groin. He's like, you're safe, essentially. So I was like, oh, wow, I haven't had this before. I didn't expect this. And so, through that season, I had a really successful second season, which led me, by the end of it, at that time, I'm starting to go through the agent process too, because I still didn't have an agent. And at this point, I had 5 or 6 agents contacting me. So I went through kind of all those interviews, narrowed it down, ended up signing with somebody. And at that point, I think that he said we had like 25 teams that were in contact with me. And
big
so,
number.
yeah. And so at that point, we, sat down and went over all the rosters, what they've typically done with CFL players, what type of receivers they have on their team, what offense they run, and try to pick out like the best fit. Because obviously, I'm not going to go do 25 different workouts. And so we narrowed it down to 5 or 6. It ended up being I went to the New York Jets first, Minnesota, Arizona, Lions, and I think I had a Bears workout, and I ended up just canceling that because I had really good reviews from the other workouts that I had. The Jets really tried really hard to sign me in Minnesota, and Arizona was like a close third, but they couldn't match what Minnesota and what the Jets were offering. So it was kind of went back and forth between the Jets and Minnesota, and ultimately I was just like, man, I want to come back home and play for the hometown crowd. Like, it was always my dream. When I was in preschool, you draw what you want to be when you grow up, and I always drew myself in a Minnesota Vikings uniform. I grew up watching Randy Moss, Chris Carter, and so when it came down to it, I was just like, dude, I want to go back to Minnesota because I've been playing 2 years up in the CFL. None of my friends or family have been able to see me, so like I want to come back home, and so I ended up signing with Minnesota.
You mentioned Adam Thielen. Like, obviously the comparisons are there, but like, what did you learn from your time with him, around him? Like, what did you pick up from him?
I probably learned the most from him versus any other receiver. I guess I learned a lot. I learned a lot in the CFL. That's where my game grew a lot, about just how to be a pro in general, how to take care of your body, how to study defenses and whatnot, because I didn't have that same exposure in the Division III level. So Adam was somebody I leaned on a lot, asked a lot of questions. He is an absolute route technician. He's still one of my favorite receivers to watch, just how smooth he is, how he can adjust to catch to any ball. I learned so much from that guy, and I still tell him that. We were working out together this offseason. That's something I bring up to him quite frequently.
That's awesome.
He's a great dude. I bumped into him at a gym in Florida, in the Destin area, and he came walking in. They told me the day before he was training there, and he came walking in, and I'm like, hey man, it's like creepy because people probably interrupt him for like a picture or an autograph. Like, I play for the Panthers. I know Brandon Zylstra. He's like, oh, I know Brandon. He's a stud. So it's like, I just was with him. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm one of the we're friends. Can we be friends? No, I didn't say it. But yeah, he's an absolute stud. He was a great guy, and we probably talked 15, 20 minutes about different players in the league and all these different things. And he's just a normal dude. He's really normal. Like, even the gym owners are like, we have no idea who that is. I'm like, that's one of the best players in the NFL right there. I mean, pound for pound.
Right.
He's been playing now for quite some time.
He's year 10, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, from probably year 3 on, he's been dominant. I don't, I could be wrong there. Those years, I don't know about those early years. But how long were you in Minnesota? what was your practice squad active roster? How did that all pan out? And then when did you depart?
So after training camp with Minnesota, I ended up making the team. I was, the 5th out of 5 receivers. So I was a big special teams roles guy, and you kind of know about that. So I think for game 1, I was originally on like two different units of the special teams. Wasn't seeing a lick of offense, and I just stood right next to my special teams coach for every single game, and it just happened to, somebody had a penalty or somebody got injured, and I was standing next to him. He's like, Brandon, go in. So I ended up playing like a right tackle in punt, and I'm never played it before. And so I'm getting picked on by the Packers defense, just trying to blow me up, and they were. But after that, he moved me to a wing the next week, and I ended up finishing the year at like right wing or something like that. A few games later, it wasn't on kickoff at the time, and somebody didn't go out there for kickoff, and I'm standing right next to him, so I run out there for kickoff. He's like, can you play too? And I was like, yeah, run down the field and go tackle. And he's like, all right, cool, get out there. And ever since then, I never left the field for kickoff. So like I kind of finessed my way onto the field a little bit. Ended up being a four-core guy. Finished out the year with that. Didn't have too many snaps of offense. It was probably under 40, under 30 maybe even. So I was really just a special teams guy. Going into that next year, that OTAs, it was the final 3 days of minicamp. Ended up tearing my MCL with the first padded practice, and so I kind of spent that summer rehabbing and stuff. When training camp came back around, I wasn't quite ready yet. Ended up going out. I think I sat out like 2 or 3 days. Ended up going out there anyway. It wasn't myself. Hadn't been training. Hadn't been running yet. Just felt really weak. Felt really slow. Wasn't performing at my best. Kind of fell towards the bottom of the depth chart. And as training camp went on, I started to get a little bit stronger and whatnot. And ultimately, I finished out at number 5 on the depth chart. That year, they decided to keep 4 receivers. And so they bring me into their office, and they're just like, we're only going to keep 4 receivers this year. We want to put you back on practice squad right away, and we're going to try to get you elevated by week 1, but we need to see how free agency kind of pans out because we need another corner because they had a lot of corner injuries. So they're trying to tell me, we're going to try to get you activated right away, but only you're the first guy out right now. And I was like, cool. If I make it through waivers, I'd love to come back essentially because no hard feelings in the NFL. Like it's a business at the same. And I understood I wasn't playing to my standard anyway. So like I kind of understood the situation, and it was pretty crazy because I didn't hear anything. You got a 24-hour waiver period. Didn't hear anything until the 23rd and a half hour. So my agent calls me. He's just like, still haven't heard anything. I was like, well, the Vikings keep calling me, trying to get me to come in to go sign this contract. Should I do that? He kept telling me to wait. And when it came to the 23rd and a half hour, he goes, we still haven't heard anything. Why don't you start heading that way? Because it was about 20 minutes away from where I was staying. So I start driving there. I get on the road for 5 minutes, and somebody texts me and says, it was one of my friends from high school. He's like, I'm not a Carolina Panther fan. And I was like, wait, what? And then my agent called me like a minute later, and he goes, Panthers just picked you up. He's just like, you're headed to Carolina. And I was like, no way. So I took an exit and came back around, went back home, started packing up my stuff, and was on a plane within 4 hours.
You mentioned Coach Rivera earlier. What's your relationship with what was it like back then, and what's it like now that he's in D.C.?
I absolutely love the guy. Absolutely, I have so much respect for him. Him taking a chance on me, because I didn't know anything about Carolina. I didn't know anything about the state, the city of Charlotte. Although I heard a lot of good things, but I was kind of confused of why they picked me up because I'd never talked to them before. I don't know if they ever asked about me when I was in the CFL, so I don't really know where that all kind of came from. But coming in from day one, he was just such a player's coach, really took care of his players. He had respect from everybody in the building. He was a fun guy to play for. So like I haven't spoke to him too much since, but when we played them, was it last year or 2 years ago? When we were in Washington?
2 years ago.
2 years
the COVID
ago.
year. Yes.
I made sure to go up to him after the game and I gave him a big hug. And somebody actually captured a picture of that too, and I actually have that. So I thought it was pretty special to me. But just went up to him, asked how he was doing. Just kind of thanked him for everything, and it's probably the last time I talked to him.
That's great. That's great. Those relationships last forever, though. You know, you'll always be able to reach out to him, and you know, those type of coaches too. Like I feel the same with Coach Rule. I get to play for him in college, and then you play for Coach Ferrer. Obviously, playing for Coach Rule now too. Like the real relationships and those things are what make it really special. So let's go back though, because this is the cool stuff that people don't know about. It's not cool. I keep using the word cool. The interesting things. You turn that car around. You go back to your apartment.
I was staying at a friend's place at the time, yeah.
So you were playing in the NFL your first year. I don't know, probably made whatever, half of it goes to taxes. I don't know, I don't even give a number, but a couple $100,000. But you were living with a friend at the time?
Yeah, so after the season,
Were you waiting to see if you were going to make the team? Like,
yes. So I actually stayed on an air mattress with a friend at one of my friend's places for like 2 months. It was when OTAs was going on, so 2 or 3 months, whatever that was. And then training camp, you're with the team. And then that time after, I had all my stuff and whatnot, and I didn't know what to do. So I just brought it over to a different friend's house and stayed at his place. And his basement was my bed, all my clothes, whatever else I had at the time. I'm kind of a minimalist, so I didn't have that much, but all my stuff was just scattered in his basement.
that's unbelievable, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I didn't know the story. Like I didn't know that story before. I know a lot about your journey, but I knew there was something to it. So, did you have your car there? Like,
Yep.
How did you get your car to Charlotte?
So like, you know how quick of a turnaround some of that stuff is.
It's gone. You got to get on a flight right away. There's no like, hey, let me. I'm going to drive from Minnesota. I'm going to take my time. No.
No,
You're gone.
you start week 1 the next day. So I made it to Charlotte at like 9 o'clock that night. Put me up in a hotel, and so that whole time I was just like, I need all my stuff, because I packed enough for like one bag, maybe two small bags to make it for a couple weeks. And my friend at the time, he's just like, dude, I'll drive your car down. I was just like, cool. And so he packed as much clothes and whatever he could in the car, and him and his girlfriend ended up driving it down for me. And I was super nice, super thankful for them, because while they were down here, we're going through practice, and I still need a place to live. I'm staying in the hotel for the first week, because they give you a week or whatever it is.
I think it's 2 weeks. They put you up for 2 weeks, and then you got to find your own place.
Yep. And so like I'm sitting here trying to figure out this new playbook, because it's completely different from anything. It was a number system versus concepts.
We've talked about this before. It's very unique.
Yeah, it was a completely different, and everything is just brand new. Special teams has different verbiage and whatnot. So I'm grinding in the playbook, trying to figure it out, all while I'm trying to find a place to live. And so I was super thankful, because when Jamie, who is now my agent, so that could be another fun story, him and his girlfriend, while I was at practice, went and did a bunch of research for me and set up a bunch of tours for me. So as soon as practice was done, we jumped in a car, started driving to all these places, and ended up finding a place to stay. And he kind of essentially helped me move in.
Tell the Jamie funny story, please.
So Jamie's my best friend since I was preschool. I think he was one of my very first friends. We've always been super close, always pushed each other, and he's always been my accountability partner in a sense in life. And in 7th grade, we talked about, we want to work together in some capacity in the future. Where it's like, how cool would it be to be a player agent? Because I always wanted to be in the NFL. He always wanted to be in the NBA. And then after going through college and whatnot, decided he wanted to be a D1 coach or an NBA coach. And so he started climbing those ranks, but then ended up meeting Mike McCartney, who is Priority Sports agent, highly respected agent in the business.
Not the football coach, the agent.
Yes, the agent. Yes. He gets mistaken for that all the time on Twitter.
And he always did on Twitter. He's actually a good follow on Twitter. I follow him for that reason.
So he met him in a gym while he was rehabbing his back for basketball, because he played basketball throughout college. And they kind of just kept that relationship alive, and ultimately, they kind of talked about, what would it be like for me to get into the whole agency thing, because he's like, I want to be a basketball agent, and Priority Sports has a really good basketball clientele. And so they stayed in contact, and he's just like, you need a secondary education, which Jamie already got his master's at that time from Elmhurst in Chicago. And then after that, he's just like, I need you to start working on recruiting. So that's when he went back to college, and he coached at a couple different colleges, creating recruiting classes for them, which ended up being one of his classes that he recruited for ended up winning a D3 national championship. I think that was Elmhurst. And a couple of his other ones, he had highly recruited people that probably shouldn't have been playing there. So he kind of proved that he can do that. Went through the interview process to get with Priority Sports for the agency. Long story short, became an agent now, and this is year 3 in the business. This last year, he has Echem, 6th pick in the draft. He also had Aiden Hutchinson, number 2 pick in the draft. So like,
Not bad.
That's awesome.
yeah, so he's been absolutely killing it, and it's super fun that we get to work together. We can speak the same language now. Our life kind of we stay so close intact, and him being my agent and us being best friends since we were in preschool, like I can talk to him way different than I can talk to maybe a normal agent. He's always gonna shoot stuff straight with me. I can ask him hard questions, and it's just been a super cool thing to be able to do this with my best friend. Do a lot of the hard conversations, so experience a lot of good conversations because he actually knows about the business now.
Yeah.
And so he can just relate to me a lot more, and it's been super fun going through that together.
That is really unique. I've had great agents, and staying close with them, and they've been in my wedding. That's what it's all about. Jay, what do you got for?
No, because you've
Bill?
seen it from all sides, because you were your own agent there at the beginning. Like, how have you seen, like, when you see other guys around the league kind of negotiate their stuff on their own, like, are you just thankful to have, like, a great, like, player-agent relationship that you have now?
Absolutely, because what's so nice with me is I have Jamie that I can go talk to at any point of the day. I can talk to him about absolutely anything, football or non-football. But then he has his mentor in Mike McCartney, and they just work so good in tandem. And so I can always bounce ideas because Mike handles a lot of the contracts right now, the negotiations, like the whole contract side. Jamie does a lot of the recruiting for them. And so they're just such a good tandem together. They work so well together, and I kind of have the best of both worlds in that sense.
Have you since, going back a little bit, talking about, like, the being temporary, like, hotels, like, have you since laid down kind of semi-permanent roots in Carolina?
Working on that.
Okay.
I've always been a guy has always kind of bounced around. Like I said, I've been a minimalist. I have a bunch of my stuff because I've lived in a house with one of our former teammates for the last 2.5 years. He recently sold the house, so I was like, I need to get my own place again. So all my stuff's actually in a storage unit.
Oh, so you sold it?
Yeah, so
You can bunk with City now. I know. Sid and I have an extra bedroom if you need somewhere to stay still.
I'm actually securing a townhome right now.
There you go. You buying or renting?
Buying.
Wow.
So I'm actually, our first day we get back is the 10th or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And supposed to close on the 11th. So.
Look at that. But then you have to stay in the hotel a couple nights too to make sure you're good to go.
We'll see. We'll see how it all works out.
It never ends. It never ends. I don't want to get too business-like, but you were a free agent this offseason?
I was, yeah.
You were. How was that situation for you? Is it what you wanted? Is it, everyone wants to get paid these big tickets, but like, take us through it in like in a laid-back way. I don't want to get too in the nitty-gritty of how that process went.
Yeah, so after the season ended, the Panthers contacted me right away, and we were just going to wait and see. Obviously, you try to get as much money as possible, but at the same time, you're looking for the right fit. You're looking for the right situations, the right city, all that kind of stuff. And so it was just kind of like a waiting game. I wasn't in any kind of rush to sign, so I was really patient about it all. I mean, ultimately, it would have been nice to stay in Carolina. That's where I've been. I've developed good roots here, like you were kind of talking about. Good friends. I know the city super well. I have everything at my disposal as far as massage therapists, acupuncture, like all that kind of stuff. And I have a really good feel for the city. I enjoy the city, and
It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
I love it. I wish I would have known 3 years ago that I would have been here. This would be my 3rd training camp here.
Yeah.
I would have bought a place.
See, I'm the same way, but you just never know with the
never
NFL.
know.
Not for long,
Hey,
Not for long.
You really can't. You really don't. Everyone, and again, it's not. I don't blame people for this. It's just not painted. It's painted a certain way by the top players in the league, and everyone gets to see the houses online, and they get to see these big places. But you're trying to make this money last a lifetime. So if you think about the money that you make in a short period of time, it's great. And don't get me wrong, I have a great time and travel and spend it with the best of them at different times. But it's really hard at the bottom of this league.
Yeah.
I mean, there's many a times me and my Volkswagen Passat from Chicago.
Chrysler 300.
Yep,
Still
Chrysler
driving a
300.
Chrysler 300.
I bought a truck this year, and it feels great, and I really wanted to do it. It was like my goal. And you and I were talking about this, but I'm like ready to go back to my roots and go get another like car and, you know, sell my truck and then take that money and buy a boat with it. But that's a different story, you know. That a bunch of depreciating assets. Kids do not buy this stuff. Do not do this stuff. It's like 101 of what not to do. So I probably won't do that, but it sounds good on paper to talk about. What are you looking forward to this year? The cliche question.
Like, I just think this year that we, you know, we're actually building something here. I feel like this team is a lot more cohesive than it has been in the past. I like the new coaches we brought in, the new systems we put in. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people this year. I don't know what they're saying about us, about where we're ranked or what we're projected or anything, but
I don't think it's very high, which is fine.
I would assume that because they've just kind of done that for the last couple of years, but I think we're going to surprise a lot of people this year.
I agree.
I think we really got something good going on.
I couldn't agree more. What do you got, Jay?
Well, my last thing was the Road Less Traveled scholarship I was reading about.
Yes.
Can you come tell us like the origin of that and where do you hope it like grows in the future?
Yeah, so that started with, you know, George Floyd happening in Minnesota. You know, I consider Minneapolis, you know, my city. You know, I spent a lot of time there. I still go back there every off season. I have some of my closest friends and family are back there. So when that happened, you know, Minnesota got such a bad rap about being the state, and I was just like, man, I didn't know it was like this. And you know, I started contacting a bunch of my friends, a couple of my CFL friends, and talking about the situation and whatnot. And I was just like, there's got to be something I can do to help. I want to be involved more. I want to you know, just show people that not everybody's like that. And I just was trying to find something I can do to help. Couldn't just kind of brainstorming with some people. Talked about some city cleanups and everything because Minnesota was getting destroyed at that time, and it was kind of unsafe to be out in a lot of those places. So just going back through stuff, you know, we talked about Division III athlete, you don't get scholarships, and that debt racked up for me, and that was something that was super stressful, especially, you know, playing in the CFL where I didn't make much money at all because it's not only is it taxed super heavy in Canada and the States, because I get taxed in the States too, but it's Canadian, so it's not as much money after you convert everything. And so like paying that plus, you know, rent plus food plus gas and everything, like it was a super stressful time for me, and that's something I just didn't want to. That was something I was just like, I want to help take that stress off somebody else. So I ended up, you know, creating the Road Less Travel Scholarship, which was given to, like the premise of the thing is I just wanted to hear about somebody's passion. I don't care what you're passionate about. I want to hear your passion and what you plan to do with it. And I also want to hear some kind of adversity you overcame, because if anything you want in life, you're going to have, you know, you're going to have adversity of some sort. And you've kind of heard about my story. I've went through a few different things as well, and I just want to make somebody's life easier. So you know, and after the George Floyd, that's what kind of inspired me. I was just like, I want to help, you know, the African American culture out there, and so I ended up doing that. And I was so surprised of how many different applicants there even was to it. You know, it ended up going on bold.org, and I wish I had the number on us. I would have done research if I knew this was kind of coming up, but I want to say there was well over 1,000, maybe even close to 2,000, and that number could be 5,000. I honestly don't remember. But people who actually applied, and what it came down to is bold.org would read through them all and kind of sift them out and give me a final list. I originally asked for, like, I think they originally sent me like a top 10 list, and you're just like, you know, pick from these top 10. And after reading all these stories, and it was just kind of inspiring me and whatnot, I was like, this is so cool. And I was just like, I can't just pick from these 10. I was like, what about these other guys that, you know, made it in the top 25 and the top 50? Mm-hmm. And so during training camp, that was when everything was kind of coming in. As I would spend time in the training room, that's when I'd start or continue to read these stories. And I think I ended up reading through the top 50 applicants, and ended up choosing 2 of the winners, and they were both granted, because I think we ended up raising $13,000. That's just super thankful, by the way, from all friends and family, and just, you know, even random fans that were donating to the scholarship that I created. And I was able to pass out. It was like a little over $6K to 2 different students, and it was just super inspiring, like I said, to read what they're passionate about, stuff they were going through at the time, or some of the stuff was, stuff they went through, just growing up, the housing situations, family situations, sickness, different deaths in the family. To me, it was just super inspiring to read all those, and I was, super fortunate to be able to help them out.
That's such a beautiful thing.
It really is. That's awesome stuff. There's a lot of guys in the league that do a lot of awesome things. Z, anything from you? Thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. I shouldn't even say anything from you because you're the guest on our show. But we appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
you can
on.
always do questions for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions for Colin.
Yeah, what do you got?
How long have you guys been doing this for? Because I know that you've talked about it for a while, and I told him a long time ago that I wanted to get on this thing.
Yeah.
And so when he texted me, a few days ago, he's like, what are you doing Sunday? Because this is our first day off. He's like, we'd like to have you on the podcast. And I think I texted him back, I've been waiting for this. So.
I know. And I think too, like, I try to get everyone in different capacities, but when we're here, it's funny, these guys, oh my God, guys, put a list together for me. You have one, Jack?
Always here, Tom.
Okay, thank you. So I said, all right, who do you guys have? And they put this whole list together. And some guys are better quotes than others. So I'm like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So we've had great quotes from a lot of guys. Miles was awesome. You guys, the Miles Hartsfield interview was great. Justin did that one. Johnny Hecker was great. We have a lot of great quotes on this team. I started this in 2017 when I got cut from the Giants. And it started as Not For Long podcast. NFL stands for Not For Long. Start the podcast. And then it would come alive and then it would die. And then it would come alive and die. And I do it in off seasons. And I wouldn't do it when I would join teams. A little bit I would. Like if I had a buddy that, did something good in college football or did something good in college basketball or whatever, maybe I'd sneak an episode out there. But I was on the practice squad. I didn't want to give them any reason to cut me. And back then, 17, 18, I know this doesn't sound that long ago, but it was different. There was no new media like it is now. Like I'm allowed the team and coach, and they support things that we do off the field. Like before, that wasn't always the case in a lot of things. Like if you tweeted on game day in the morning, with certain franchises, that's like a cardinal sin. Now it's like guys are going on Instagram Live, 2 hours before the game, and the NFL has rules against it now, right? You can't even do it in the locker room. So my point is, it's changed a lot, and the new media has allowed us to expand and grow, and we have multiple podcasts now. So I don't know. I just keep saying yes to a lot of things. And I have a lot of great people on our team that say, what can we do? And they're like, here's what I suggest. And we kind of hit it. So we've been doing it for 4, 5, 6 years now. Something I always wanted to do.
I was going to say, that was my next question what was your inspiration for actually creating it?
So I told the story on different podcasts before, maybe not on mine, maybe I have, but my dad sold his business and then he started working for a new one. And in that time period of about a year, he would drive me to school. I didn't have my license yet. And we'd listen to Mike and Mike in the morning, every single morning on the way to school. And he'd be like, Colin, listen to how they articulate, listen to how they, come up with stories, and listen to the guests that come on. What guests do you like more than others? And it was almost like a quiz every day. And that really impacted my life, that show. That's how I picked my college. I like the way they would pick playoff teams every year. And how they pick playoff teams, where they pick 5 categories that matter and rank them, and then whoever had the highest score, that would win the Super Bowl. And they nailed it. They did it with the Giants the one year when the Giants barely made it because of the wild card. They'd nail it every year. And, that show had a tremendous impact on me. So I just kind of said, I'm going to do a show. And I joined this Temple football broadcast when I would go back and take the train to Temple and then work out at Temple when I was out of the league and I got cut. Like, hey, man, you want to come on and talk about the team? Because I was doing color commentary for the radio and covering Temple games. So it all kind of started around then when I was involved, and I'm like, hey, this coincides with football. It doesn't affect my play. I still can train and do all the things I do, and then just have the normal conversations I have with guys. And then here we are. So now I got guys in purple polos running around and doing awesome things, and it's been great. It's been fun. So
It's awesome.
yeah, man. Appreciate you coming on. Anything from you, Jay? Jack's got a question.
I'll come in the frame here again.
Oh, wow. You want to be in the frame?
Well, because it's a visual question. Would you like to tell the listeners what you thought I looked like? Who did I look like?
I said he looked like Farva from Superbad, and it was
Super Troopers.
Super Troopers, and he's just like, I don't even have a shaved head, but I think it was the mustache that did it.
It's the stash and the hair. We have the original Fudge Kitchen advisor here, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. FudgeKitchens.com. Check them out. Jack had the visor on, and we ruined your visor swag. Oh,
Let me get a little promotion.
this is like Entourage. Has anybody seen Entourage? They're like when they're trying to get the free. Have you watched the show Entourage? These two haven't, which is a fine. Have you seen Entourage before? Okay, so we got 3 major fines. 1, 2, 3. So it's loosely based off Mark Wahlberg's life. It's a fantastic show. You've never seen Entourage?
I might have seen like an episode because I think many people have told me about it, but I don't know if.
Well, in the
I've actually
beginning,
watched it.
one of the beginning episodes, season 1, Rufus over at whatever electronics says, if you give me a shout out tonight on Jimmy Kimmel and wear my hat on stage, we're gonna hook your house up with free electronics. So they're all sitting here like this, and they're like, "A Fudge Kitchen, the best in the business, baby." So when you put that on, I thought about it. So never mind, it's jokes. The joke's on me because none of these guys have seen Entourage. So
Yeah,
those
Fudge Kitchen, I'd love a, love a little care package for camp.
Oh, we're gonna have to hook them up.
Housewarming present.
What are we at?
There you go.
Housewarming present.
Callback.
There you go. Housewarming present for Z. Brandon Zylstra, appreciate you joining us, man. That will do it for another episode of the Colin Thompson Show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.